Welcome to the You Are More podcast. Guys, I am super excited today and I'm really honored. If you were at our women's event just a few weeks ago, you got to hear the amazing Dr. Susie Bartlett Hackenmiller speak at our event, and she was there last year with me. But guys, she's an epic, amazing individual, super accomplished. Let me start to read their list of accomplishments. She is triple board certified in OBGYN, integrative medicine, and lifestyle medicine. She practices at Honor Health Integrative Medicine in Scottsdale. She's an associate professor at the University of Arizona of obstetrics and gynecology, and she sees patients via telehealth through Mercy One OBGYN in Waterloo. Guys, she's written multiple books. I've got one right here, Forest Bathing. We'll talk about how you can get that. A book on autism about her son, a friend like John. Guys, works for Deepak Chopra. Is it Chopra or Chopra? Chopra. His whole health. She sits on a medical team as an advisor. Guys, super accomplished. She and her husband live in Arizona, and they used to be from the Cedar Valley. And so we get to pull them back into our market every once in a while. So I'm super honored to have Dr. Susie Bartlett with me today. And we're going to be talking about all things integrative medicine, your journey from traditional medicine and your path here. So welcome.
Thank you, Amy. It's so much fun to be here.
So talk to me about this. So how many years did you practice traditional medicine?
Well, and I still do because it's part of integrative medicine. So I've practiced 25 years total since residency and about 12 years before I started my integrative medicine fellowship.
So tell me what your life was like when you were just an OBGYN, not just, when you're an OBGYN, you're delivering lots of babies, your schedule's crazy, you're raising kids.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to even think back to that time because it was so insane. But you're right. I was practicing OBGYN in the Cedar Valley, a couple different places, would take call on a regular basis, sometimes every night for several years, every other night, other years. And so that meant, of course, if you're delivering babies, that you're not getting a lot of sleep. And in those days, obstetricians would deliver babies and then see patients the next day in clinic, and that schedule never ended. So there really was very, very little downtime from work. So I was doing that very regularly, practicing full panel of obstetrics and gynecology, gynecologic surgery, delivering babies, clinic, all of that, and had two young kids at the time, and was married, was trying to do all the things that we do in life. And my son was diagnosed with autism a little before he turned 3. And at the same time, I had a 1-year-old daughter. So they were 2 years apart. So you can imagine that was a bit of a handful. And so when my son was diagnosed, that, of course, threw a lot of things up in the air for me in my world. But I kept plugging along and was seeking answers to the questions that I had for his needs. And around the same time, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer.
Wow.
So 2008. And so at that point, I was about 8 years into my practice. So at that time, then I had an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, I guess, and was again continuing to deal with my son's needs and my daughter's needs, and then Dave's diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer. So that was a little bit crazy.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It was really
a lot.
It's a lot. And so we then, of course, sought treatment for Dave and looked into all kinds of options for him, both conventional and alternative and complementary even. And at that time, before all of these things happened in my personal life, I was the most conventionally minded physician and had no time for anything that was at all alternative or complementary. I just figured all of it was woo-woo crazy stuff that there was no evidence to support, and had no time at all for that. But interestingly, people kept coming to me with these questions about first of all, how they could treat their own health. But then people would come to me with suggestions for things I should consider trying for my son or my husband.
Okay.
Whether it was some kind of supplement or some kind of diet or some kind of mind-body practice or things like this. And I thought, gosh, I have no training in this type of thing. And is there any validity to it? Maybe there is, because these same refrains kind of keep coming back up about these things. So and also I'll kind of put an aside from my professional lens, during this time, I had all of these women in various stages of their lives. But in 2002, there was a big upheaval where there was a large study called the Women's Health Initiative that found an increased risk of heart attack, strokes, blood clots, and breast cancer after 5 years of use of hormone therapy. And at
Okay.
the time, I had all of these menopausal women on hormone therapy, and they were forced to stop taking it cold turkey. So that was a really rough period of time for my patients. And although I wasn't there physically in my own life reproductive journey, I acknowledged that this is a terrible experience that they were going through. And then subsequently, patients were coming to me with these bottles of herbal supplements and things and saying, well, do you think this might help my hot flashes? Or is this going to help my mood? Or will this help me lose weight? Or how, just desperate to have
Mhm.
some kind of answer for their symptoms. And so I think that combination of three things, so my son's autism diagnosis, my husband's lung cancer diagnosis, and my patients dealing just completely miserably with menopause, were really the three motivating factors that caused me to pursue integrative medicine.
Mhm.
And so initially I'd never heard of integrative medicine, but I
Yeah.
heard Andrew Weil speak at a conference, and he coined the term integrative medicine. And he had a fellowship in integrative medicine at the University of Arizona. And so immediately I knew that that was my next step, that I needed to pursue that training, completed the fellowship, and became board certified in integrative medicine. And really, I've never looked back, because it did give me so many more tools in my toolbox for my family and for my patients and for myself.
Wow. I ask you this: when you started down that path of integrative medicine with all that you had going on, it was not well accepted, especially when you're in Iowa, right?
No. Oh my goodness. People, and I think probably there are still people who wonder what happened and what direction I went. But the Midwest is a little bit slower to adopt in some respects of things like this. And so I knew that there was a lot of integrative medicine happening on the coast,
Mhm.
and I was seeing the evidence to support the types of things that I was sharing with my patients. But yes, it was a challenging road, and I spent about 10 years trying to get integrative medicine up and running in various clinics in Iowa. And I've done a lot of other things, and the forest, nature and forest therapy. Of course, people think I'm completely off my rocker. However, there's good evidence to support it. So just keep talking the talk.
You know what? Here's the thing that's going to be picking up. There's a book out that I had talked to you about, the expectation factor. It actually talks about force bathing.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
check that book out. But anyway, like I just think about where we are at, and it's people like you that have plowed the way against criticism. I mean, this podcast is you or more. Like people, I'm always encouraging live your dreams. But the reality of it is when you push into something new,
Yes.
even if it's kind of in your lane, I mean, it is your lane, but you start to expand that lane, there you have to be so deeply committed because the pushback and the thoughts of what are you doing? You have a great, I mean, from all like outsider perspective, like you have the perfect world. What are you doing? Why are
Right.
you messing things up?
Right. Just practice medicine the way you were trained. Keep showing up and delivering babies and doing surgery and prescribing pills, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. So I still get that message from some people, but
But here's the thing. So I go to this like you've had like those three I would say they're like life crises or those moments that everything comes into strong clarity, right? And they're defining. Life doesn't look the same anymore. So at those moments, I'm like, how did you find the fortitude to just push through and keep going? Like, what did you do to encourage yourself in that or to keep going in that?
well, I think we all have moments of just laying on the floor in a heap of, a puddle of tears and, wallow. I'm sure most people have those moments in life. It's the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys of life. But at some point, you have no choice. You have to take care of your loved ones. You need to keep showing up for work, and you may need to throw out the way you've looked at things before and see things through a different lens in order to grow, in order to get the job done, in order to just keep things moving forward.
When did you start to see the wins that you're like, oh, I am impacting people? Oh, that person's
Oh
life
my
is
gosh,
changing.
right away. As far as integrative medicine,
Uh-huh.
I've had experience that I've shared previously publicly where at first with integrative medicine, and probably in many facets of life, you feel a little bit like an imposter and you just do as somebody told you should do, whether you know anything about it or not.
Mhm.
So I remember trying different herbal options, and I studied herbal medicine for 2 more years after my fellowship. But I remember trying these things on patients that I had learned about, but I had no real experience about.
Mhm.
And I had patients really interested in it and wanting to try it. And I remember thinking, okay, well, they say this works for this, and let's see. And, I'm just kind of winging it. But lo and behold, patients would return with with really great benefits. And at first that was very shocking.
Mhm.
Um, another time I had an experience with a patient who was newly diagnosed with Parkinson's and was dealing with a full body tremor and burst into tears. And so I asked if she and her husband would like to take a moment and do 4-7-8 breathing, which I shared with our audience at the Thrive event actually a year ago. But it's such a simple technique where you basically breathe in for the count of 4, you hold your breath for the count of 7, and you exhale slowly for the count of 8, and you repeat it 4 times through. So I walked this patient and her husband through this practice, and it takes about 2.5 minutes to do the whole thing 4 times through. And they had their eyes closed. I happened to have my eyes open, and so I was watching this happen. But as I was guiding them through this breathing practice, I watched literally this woman's tremor go from a full body Parkinson's tremor to no tremor at all.
Wow.
And I was blown away because I
Wow.
really was just trying to take a moment to reset things so
Yeah.
that perhaps she could, breathe, reset that sympathetic fight or flight tone for her, and maybe we could go forward. But to
Mhm.
watch a Parkinson's tremor
Wow.
go completely away in 2.5 minutes was astounding to me at the time. And I share that story regularly because I still can hardly believe it. But I also think we're so reliant on pharmaceutical medications that we
Mhm.
can't even imagine that something as simple as a 2.5 minute breathing technique could knock out a tremor that
Yeah.
quickly. And I honestly can't think of a medication that could work as fast.
Mhm.
So so that's to me something. So yes, there are those moments even still today where I'm kind of flabbergasted by things that are so simple but work so well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that's amazing, right? Um, I just know that you're super intuitive. Are you led by that? Like, how do you make decisions?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Do you practice medicine like that intuitively?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Most of what's right doesn't come from up here. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, and it comes from somewhere else. And how we identify that, what we call that, is different for different people. But really, every decision that I've made that was right in my life and career has been maybe seen as spontaneous or impulsive, but it's because it comes as a download or just an instant lightning flash of this is the next right step. And it doesn't always make sense to me or definitely to anybody else, especially to anybody else. But you know it to be true when that happens if you're
Uh-huh.
paying attention and listening to it
Mhm.
and willing to take notice. So yes, yeah, and I've had that experience with patients many times over the years. I remember that lesson came early on in my career where I was really shortly out of residency, and a patient came to me determined that she had a uterine cancer. And the previous 2 gynecologists she had seen were my partners who were more senior and more experienced, and they told her she did not have cancer, that she had fibroids, and the patient was adamant that she knew she had cancer. And when I saw her, I I felt that
Yeah.
urgency. And
Yeah.
I took her to the operating room, and sure enough, she was full of cancer.
Wow.
And that was one of those moments where I early on learned that you listen to your patient.
Hmm. Hmm.
You put your smart little head aside and you listen to your patient and you hear them and you listen and you feel that urgency and you feel that knowing that they have that maybe you either have or don't yet, but that knowing is there.
So when I was walking through, first I met you as a client, right? And then I started to walk. I walked through a health crisis. I walked through breast cancer. I always say I walked through. It's not my. It's not my. It's. It was a process I walked through, right? But I was terrified, and I had not talked about it with people. And I remember calling you, saying, "Man, I don't know about tamoxifen. I don't know about radiation. I was freaking out about all of it." And you gave me one statement that literally I have shared with so many people that have walked through and continue to walk through. And they're like, Amy, I tell everyone I meet that statement. And you talk to me about, Amy, it's how you receive it. And there's so many things that if you think it's working for your good and it's healing you, you respond better to, and it is. And if it's not, then like your resistance to it makes it almost ineffective, right? And so that literally that flip narrative, like I'm telling you, it saved me. And I walked into that every day. I'll get in and they're like, "Oh, it's going to hit your lung," and it's a bad environment, right? No one wants to be there.
Yeah.
And I would think, "Oh, thank God this is working for me. Thank God it's working for me," because I would flip the narrative.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you talk like when you said that to me, something locked in. Like, oh, that's what I have to do. I just have to flip this, right? And I think about, I have shared that story with the power of the flip narrative. I even wrote a book. I even wrote it in my book, The Power of the Flip Narrative. Like it's powerful. But then I want to say this, okay? So when I started through that process, I mean, I remember coming to you. I'm like, man, maybe I need an antidepressant. I'm freaking out here. What do I need? And I sat there, and you're like, okay, well, we can do something like that, and okay. And I sat there and I had a conversation with you. And again, leading with just your intuitive nature, I had a 40-minute conversation with you, and I never ended up having to use any of it because I walked out of there like, do you know what I mean?
Right, but you did walk out of there with a
I
prescription.
did walk out with a prescription. I walked out with a prescription. I could have used it. And the fact that I could have used it,
Right.
I didn't need to.
That's the power right
That's the
there.
power. Like I could have used it.
Want to-
It still sits in my cabinet. Could have used it. It's super expired, but I could. But you know what I mean? Like I did. But like I had a conversation. It got me off the ledge, and I'm like, there's so much power in just that, and so like just leading with that intuitiveness that you have, right? And that took you down a path of forest bathing. Like, where did that lead? Like, where did that come from?
Oh my gosh. Where did that come from? So, after Dave passed away in 2012, I found personally that my healing took place outdoors in nature. And I had always been drawn to outdoors. And initially, it was all about the adrenaline rush after
Mhm.
he passed. And so, I did a lot of trail running and mountain biking and started training for adventure triathlons and all of this go, 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 push yourself, run away from things kinds of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then I was reading an Oprah magazine in 2014, and the last article on the last page was about this forest bathing. And I read it and I thought, wow, that's amazing. I need that. I want that. And so then I requested a little booklet on forest bathing from the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. And I read it and I decided to experiment on a group of women that were coming to a weekly workshop series that I did in Hiawatha. Each week of the series was a different aspect of integrative medicine. And we had spirituality and health, we had whole medical systems and health. And so that would be things like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. We had community and health. And then I decided to sneak in nature and health.
Mhm.
And so the week that we did nature and health, I took them on a little forest bathing experience just by using my little handbook. And so the same people were coming back each week from these workshops. And when they came back the following week, most of the people in the group expressed that in the intervening week, they had gone out and done some form of forest bathing, either on their own or with a family member or a friend. And I was really moved by that. I was shocked by
Mhm.
that they
Yeah.
felt that it was effective and impactful enough that they wanted more of it and that
Mhm.
they wanted to share it with other people. So I wrote a little article about it and sent it to the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, and they were really excited. And the founder was saying he was waiting for a physician to kind of champion this
Mhm.
work. And so ultimately, I became certified as a nature and forest therapy guide and worked with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy as their medical director for a while. And ultimately, this led to my work that I still do for All Trails, the app. And it's funny how life happens, but I think when you're really drawn to something with your soul in that way
Mhm.
that I was, things just kind of materialize. I was offered the opportunity to write the book that you mentioned. Thank you very much. And so it's funny how those things happen, but I do feel that people heal in many ways better and more quickly in work that's done outside of the exam room.
Mhm.
So whether that's outdoors in nature, which I find people have really quick intuitive experiences that foster change, or if it's in a group setting. I love doing workshop kinds of things because just the energy and the community of the group also facilitates healing and change, in my mind, in a much faster way than just the one-on-one experience in an exam room.
And guess what? We have good news for all of you guys who are listening. She actually has a course coming up each Wednesday in February from 12 to 1. Guys, 4 sessions plus a bonus. The cost is $1,000, but she's going to be talking all things how to thrive in perimenopause. What you don't know could hurt you. Thriving in menopause. And then a couple topics you guys just get to pick. The points of topic. Guys, we will put details in the comments section when we post this podcast. We'll get you a link, but this is a rare opportunity to talk to someone. If I look at someone like she's sticky, and when I say sticky, she's walked through things. She's plowed the ground. She's a trailblazer. You're a trailblazer in so many ways. And I am so grateful that you didn't quit. When I look at you, I say, man, thank God. Thank God you did not quit. Thank God you continue to push through. Because I know that when you're in the lane that you're in, people were probably thinking you were totally crazy. And it's cost you. There's been a price, there's been a big, significant price to pay. And so I believe that that your best day is your best practice, your best, it's ahead of you, right? But I know you've paid a price dearly to walk the path you've walked. And I, for one, as well as many people I know, are deeply grateful that you did not quit and you continued to pursue and to continue to explore and to walk this path. And I know many people that'll hop on this class will be so excited. It'll be so transformative. And just like when we talked about Thrive, like your best life, I mean, you can, all things, hormones, everything, guys. It's important. And so just to wrap this up, give me just, if you're just out there, like, what are the 3 favorite things you'd say are your 3 best, like, health hacks for anyone?
Right.
What would those 3 health hacks be?
Well, Amy told me she was going to tell me this or ask me this, like 5 seconds before we were on. And I said, I'm
It's
going to
just
think about it.
spontaneous.
Right. And then to narrow it down, and I thought, oh, I'll think about it. But of course I haven't. So this is going to be off the cuff. So I think it's the 3 things. One is breathe.
Mhm.
So that taking a moment to slow down your breath on a regular basis is the simplest, fastest life hack there is.
Okay, walk through
So yeah,
that breathing
4
thing again. Yeah,
seconds.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So breathing in for the count of 4. You want me to should we do it, or do you want to
do it.
just
Let's do it.
you really want to do it? All right. So we're gonna do it. So everybody can do it with us.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, I'll quickly tell you again. It's gonna be breathing in for the count of 4, holding for the count of 7, exhaling for the count of 8, and then we'll repeat 4 times through. Okay.
Okay.
So put both feet on the floor. And then go ahead and you can close your eyes or lower them to the ground. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and exhale completely. And then together we'll inhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wow. I do feel different.
Wasn't that something?
Yeah.
Almost can't not feel different after doing that. I use it all the time. I use it sitting in meetings. People don't even know that I'm doing it with my eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
I do it driving in the car, also with my eyes open. But if you have a few moments before you walk into a meeting or a stressful thing, a speaking engagement, just taking the test, an exam, oh my gosh, taking a few minutes to do this can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. No, it just calms you, doesn't it?
It does. It triggers the relaxation response better than just about anything I know and doesn't really take that long.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's thing one. Let's see, what's thing two? I'm gonna have to say nature. You have to get outside. And I've had patients tell me that the most helpful medical advice they've ever gotten from any doctor ever was when I told them they should take a daily walk outdoors.
Wow.
Put the baby in the stroller, get out and walk, bundle up in the cold and get out and walk, even if it's just down to the corner and back, just get outdoors. But, we talk about a nature pyramid where maybe on a daily or several times a week basis, you try to just walk locally or spend time in a local park, um, just time outdoors as the base of the pyramid. But then maybe monthly try to schedule time to get to maybe a state park, somewhere that takes a little more effort to get to spend time just out in nature, whether it's walking or doing anything active or spending quiet time in nature. And then maybe once a year, if you can, trying to make it to, say, a national park or to a farther away but more magnificent nature type of location or a beach or something, and just spending time to mindfully take it in and notice it rather than just taking it for granted and
Mhm.
not noticing it. So yeah, time in nature would be thing number two. Oh my gosh, I only have one more. What do you think it should be, Amy? What category? I think it has to be food. I think it has to be we are what we eat. We are what we eat, and being conscientious of that is really, really important.
What
And
do you mean we are what we eat?
yeah, well, if we eat animal products, we're also what they eat. And that makes a very big difference. And it is something really important to consider because, unfortunately, in many cases, animals are being fed all kinds of crap. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're eating those animals and they are what they eat. And then we become what we eat. And so we are what we eat. So, that's something to think about. And if you don't eat animals, then that doesn't apply as much, but we still are what we eat. And I know a lot of people who follow a vegetarian diet, but then they eat all kinds of chemicals or, consume these things that have labels with ingredients they can't even pronounce. And I think we should be cognizant of that. I think we really have to think about we're becoming that. What
Mm-hmm.
kind of that garbage in, garbage out kind of thinking that if you put good stuff in, good things are going to come out.
So do you have kind of a your go-tos? Like this is my go-to. I think eating like I don't really eat to like have like the if I want to eat great, like I want to go have be entertained, I'll go to some great restaurant. But every on my daily life, I'm just eating for energy. You know what I mean? I'm not eating for entertainment.
Well, right. And I wasn't brought up really in this, in this way of thinking about what I eat.
Hmm.
It was sustenance, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy cooking. I never really felt like I was good at cooking, and I resisted cooking and always felt like I didn't have time for it and I didn't want to deal with it. And I've had to really shift that mindset dramatically into this whole mindset of it does matter. It matters so much. It matters more than just about anything else what we put in our bodies,
Right.
whether it's for energy, whether it's for immune function, whether it's for avoiding cancer or keeping cancer at bay or all these different things. We really can treat most illnesses with nutrition.
Hmm.
So I still don't, I've never have feel that I have time to really cook. So I think it's important to plan ahead,
Hmm.
buy the produce, get home and right away prepare it so that that is a step that's out of the way, whether it's cutting it, chopping it, whatever, putting it in separate containers so that in the heat of the moment after work and you're exhausted, it's not
Yeah.
that big a deal to take
Hmm.
it, throw it in maybe some olive oil, stick it in your air fryer or your oven or whatever, or steam it and eat it. So we eat pretty simply most nights, something that looks like a various take on a rice bowl or a quinoa bowl,
Okay.
where we make a huge thing of rice or quinoa or various things early in the week, and then we change it out and we eat a lot of different vegetables in it. I talked about the 40 plants per day idea at
Yeah.
the event, and many people have commented to me or texted me, or they're like, how do you do that? What does that entail? And
Yeah.
so I know that will be one of the topics that comes up in our master class is how would you possibly get 40 plants per day? And
Yeah.
it's a fun little experiment that I do fairly regularly. But I think it's really important to think about those micronutrients that we need. They're
Hmm.
actually essential to
Hmm.
have in your diet.
Hmm.
And most of us probably aren't getting them adequately.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
I
you
don't know if
see
you
me
read
going,
now,
oh
but
my God.
she is a wealth of information. I want to remind you again. We will have a link to it. The master class starts February 5th. Every Wednesday in February. You're not going to want to miss it. Again, cost is $1,000. Think about that, guys. I said this kind of as a Freudian slip. I don't know what you want to call it, but we'll pay that for a pair of shoes, or we'll pay that for a weekend away or whatever. We'll do that. But think about your health and your longevity. Like, I don't mean anything by this, but it has way bigger. This pays way bigger dividends than that pair of shoes ever will, right? Or that trip ever will. Y'all hear me. Anyway, also, you can go to Amazon. Forest Bathing is right there. And I think that everyone I know that's picked this book up has really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, so looking forward to that. So, follow along with Susie. We'll post all of your socials. I think she goes by Doc Susie on all of her Facebook and Instagram. Is that right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
follow her. You're going to learn a lot from her, and she'll change your world. So, Susie, I appreciate you so much, and you are a world changer. And carry on,
Are you?
right?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was a blast as always. We could talk for hours.
Yes, yes. For those of you listening, just know you are more. So you are more. What does that mean? It means that you're more in your life. It's more in your health. You have the capabilities as a human being to experience life, peace, health, provision on a completely different level than what you're living in. And here's the thing, Dr. Susie always says, if you know better, you'll do better. Share this with a friend, download it, give us a 5-star review, and go follow Dr. Susie. Thanks so much, guys.